Hello everyone and welcome to the continent of Alashar. This is where our new campaign entitled The Tales of Alashar will take place as we kick off this new journey shortly after these first couple of introduction videos go live on the channel. We'll be recording a session 0 as well and uploading that separately, but our Patreon members will get access to session 0 as soon as we finish recording it. Just as a way of saying thank you. In this video, I'll be giving you a brief introduction to the continent of Alashar, where it sits in the grand scheme of D&D, what Pantheon it uses, a quick breakdown of the geopolitical landscape, and more. And we will likely circle back and update this video as our artists complete new visuals and landscapes that would help you visualize these locations that we talk about today. Alright, let's get into it. Our players will be dropped into the story about 650 years after a world-changing event took place, an event that changed life in Alashar permanently. So the continent had been thriving, port towns and cities on the coast had bustling economies trading goods with neighboring island nations, and even another continent across the sea to the west. But inexplicably and without warning, the sky began to rumble angrily, and the people of Alashar watched in horror as a great cloud bubbling with pure mystical energy descended from the heavens and fell over the sea just under half a mile away from the coastline, hugging each turn and curve of the continent like a blanket all the way around. This phenomenon came to be referred to as the curtain. Stretching 1,500 feet into the air, the curtain is impenetrable. Ships that were caught in it when it descended were swallowed up and ripped apart in the bombardment of raw magical force, and since it dropped, no one has seen over it, and no one has gone through it. Alashar has, for about 650 years now, been a continent in exile. Any knowledge of the world beyond the curtain is hidden from the people of Alashar. Now, there are some strange side effects of the curtain. First of all sea travel has stopped, right? Since it hugs the coast so tightly, no seafaring ships dare to try to sail the shallower waters around the coast, and they also don't dare to get too close to the curtain, as the effects of the curtain can reach beyond its physical form. Ships that get too close lose control of their vessel entirely, and they risk being drawn into the curtain. It's also difficult to sail with unpredictable wind currents, as the curtain actually blocks all weather coming through it, including wind and waves. Now, because of this, waves no longer lap up on the shores of Alashar. Instead, the sea is smooth as glass. Larger deep-sea creatures are no longer seen as they exist beyond the curtain. The shores of Alashar were once serene and peaceful places of leisure and popular vacationing destinations. Now they are eerie. The low rumble of the curtain is unsettling, and the imposing visage of the curtain makes few feel safe and calm anymore. Many people of Alashar reached out to extraplanar entities for information about the curtain, but travel to other planes, while rare to begin with, was completely shut down. It's as if the curtain disrupts all means of movement outside of Alashar entirely. Communication from the gods and extraplanar beings slowed down dramatically, but the gods, they do still interact with the creatures and the people of Alashar, allowing for clerics and priests to continue to exist, and warlocks are still able to find their patrons and receive their contractual abilities. But no deity has ever directly spoken of or acknowledged the curtain. It's as if there's a cosmic gag order, making Alashar truly feel like the land of isolation. Some good did come out of the curtain, though, and that was the way that it forced the peoples and the kingdoms of Alashar to form a central governing body that helped to maintain order after the phenomenon. The city of Pantheon was formed when different camps of the various people groups of Alashar came together for an assembly, and these camps ultimately became the different districts of the now capital city, where the Council of Kingdoms holds attendance representing their own nations and cultures and working together to provide order and security in the world. To the north is the Kingdom of High Elves and their city of Havendel. There is a king who rules with the High Court under him, 32 families of nobles who provide governmental leadership. In terms of climate, Havendel and the surrounding area is much like the Pacific Northwest of America. It's lush and it's green with a great forest west of it along the coast, with lowland plains dotted with lakes leading up to Havendel. The elven culture values wealth, artistry, status, and influence. The greatest accolade a family could have beyond a political station is having a home on the water in the lake town of Fairstead on the shores of Arnania. To the east is a great mountain range called the Belt of Gond. while tribal groups of Goliaths live scattered throughout the peaks. The great dwarven kingdom rules these lands from their city of Yunderhold. This city is less a collection of buildings and is more like a relief sculpture, with the city having been carved out from the mountain itself. The mountain from which the city is carved is hewn straight down the middle in a perfectly smooth cleave, and the dwarves believe that their ancestors were led through the mountain by the god Grumbar, who led them as a towering earth elemental who cleaved the mountain in two to allow them safe passage through the mountains to settle and live on the other side, instead of wandering in the desert on the eastern side of the mountain range. When they came through the pass, now called the Pass of Almud, named after the dwarf who led the people through, the dwarves saw Grumbar on the other side carving away parts of the mountain itself to create a great hall for them to rest in. He then left the dwarven people, and they continued his work by carving out the mountain into a city where they now live. This city, Yunderhold, values endurance, personal contribution to the city, and runs off the work of the guilds. Each dwarf at the age of 13 goes into a 2-year period of proving, where they work tirelessly to gain entry into a guild where they will work for the rest of their lives, and that guild becomes their family from that point forward. There are 8 main guilds. They are the Erector Guild, masons who work the stone of the mountain to continue the expansion both on the surface and subterranean to accommodate the expanding population. There is the Fjordbrand Guild, forge masters who mine the subterranean passages and then smelt them into workable ingots and metals. There is the Skalmbrocker Guild, great weaponsmiths who create powerful armor and arms for the Dwarven Kingdom. The Guild of Alashar, these are brewers and coopers who make beer and ale for the dwarves and for export. Then the Guild Gersemi, great jewel crafters and artisans who make unrivaled jewelry, which is highly coveted by even the high elves who are already talented jewel crafters. Then the Guild of Slaughterkjot, a guild of butchers and experts in drying and curing meats. And outside the city's enormous wall, there's the Guild Brumanum, farmers who raise cattle and animals of many kinds, as well as farmers of grain that is used by the Alisalar Guild to brew ale. And finally, the Guild Kjapman, a merchant guild of commerce who handles the local economy, as well as export trades with other nations and cities. If a dwarf cannot gain entry into a guild, they have 2 options. The first is to pursue the honorable vocation of being a soldier in the king's army, the Granitarium. They must prove themselves worthy through academy attendance or through a series of trials. But if a dwarf does not gain entry into a guild, nor do they pass the trials and join the Granitarium, they will be branded Fjorderlaus. This is a brand of shame marked by copper sigils woven into your beard or hair. They are wretches in the city and often cast out if they cannot find a useful job cleaning latrines or carrying mail or some other ignoble job. The city prides itself on being imposing, clean, well-run, and well-maintained. Fjorderlaus dwarves generally don't belong in such a kingdom and are forced out by unkind treatment. When a dwarf enters a guild, though, they receive sigils of fine metals that bear the crest of their guild and are woven into their beards and hair. There are many accolades and awards that can be displayed in such a way as a dwarf excels in their craft and in their guild. All of these things make Yunderhold one of the most dominant cities and influential people groups in all of Alashar. This also earns them the most seats on the Council of Kingdoms in Pananthro. The city southwest of them is also a large and strong city named Dalamar, which is governed by the Dwarven Kingdom, but it's inhabited by many different races, including wood elves, high elves, gnomes, humans, tieflings, and halflings. It thrives as a trade center and also the site of clerical training for many deities with lots of temples within its walls. South of Dalamar, you'll see the woodland realms of Arbellum, where the wood elves thrive in their city Vingrove, which is perched high in a massive Arbellium tree. Most of their population lives outside of the ruling city of Vingrove, and they live on the ground level. Arbellium trees are unique in that wood elves have a strong psychic bond with them. If a wood elf were to raise a sapling and tend to it daily, it would eventually form a connection with the tree so strong that the tree will respond to the elf's wishes and it will move and bend to the elf's will. The Arbellium wood itself is hard as steel. Cutting it down is near impossible. But elves with a strong connection to the trees can coax the Arbellium into willingly giving up portions of its wood to make tools, weapons, and more. When a couple marries in the Woodland Kingdom, they take a fresh sapling and erect a tent around it, where they grow and nurture it together until ultimately the tree forms and twists and shapes all around them to create the home in which they live and raise their family together. A strong family is one with a large, well-shaped arbelium home. Their tree will give them wood for bows and arrows for hunting, for tools, utensils for gardening, and more. To the east of this woodland realm lies the Divide, a great canyon where the halfling people live. This canyon is not an arid desert canyon. Instead, the Great River Gen flows alongside it, trickling down through the canyon in many places to form the Genling River down at the canyon's base. The canyon is about a mile wide at its base and about 3 miles wide at the top in most places. Down near the base, the halfling people live in a terraced community called Ludaria. Green and verdant half-circular platforms hang out of the canyon wall where they build their homes and their cities. Connected by a series of sloped roads that lead from terrace to terrace, the city reaches all the way down to the ground level, where farmers work the canyon floor near the Genling River. They are a peaceful and joyous people. Most of their squabbles are petty and easily resolved. Further west, you'll see the city of Legar, perched between two lakes. This city is known as a lawless place where crime families run the local government and are constantly fighting for more territory within the city. They barter in contraband that flows freely through the city, and the city guard themselves are loyal only to the family paying them the best at any given time. Further west still is the city of Bilderberg, the city that most represents the human population in Alashar. This city is known for its churches, pubs, shops, and its local farmers' markets, where the farmers from the surrounding countryside come to trade their goods. There's no wall or fortress exterior to the city, as this is a place of general peace. South of Bilderberg is the city of Paradissus. While the west coast of Alashar is rocky and craggy, the southern coast here is marked by white sand beaches and palm trees. It used to be one of the most desirable vacation destinations on the continent before the curtain fell. Now, it still maintains its tropical atmosphere, but fewer people come to visit. But every year, a festival tradition takes place where worshippers of Umberlee make the pilgrimage to Paradissus to swim out into the ocean and back to see who will make it the closest to the curtain and make it back alive. Now, this tradition was extended to other thrill seekers who do the same. Sponsors attach themselves to competitors in the challenge, and placements are a big deal. Spectators place enormous bets on competitors as well. Further west of Paradissus is the great city of Proudscale. This is the primary gathering place of the Dragonborn people. The city stretches high into the air with triangular buildings that look much like dragon scales among the spires of stone in the surrounding region. Proudscale is home to the most well-renowned and prestigious College of Magic, and entry into the college is very difficult. Only the most naturally skilled or ambitiously driven mages are granted attendance to this school. Moving now north of the capital city of Pananthro, you'll see a great city of New Kingsfield. This is where the headquarters of the Society of Adventurers is stationed. Aspiring adventurers travel here to register with the Society and then gain access to jobs posted here or in satellite locations in every major city across Alashar. New Kingsfield is also home to a major tourist attraction, the Alasharan Games. In a great stadium in the heart of the city, various games and challenges are hosted, from sporting events to staged fights between registered adventurers and beasts or even prisoners of many kinds. There are foot races, grappling tournaments, even fights to the death from time to time, which pull in the most spectators and draw in the largest bets as well. New Kingsfield thrives off of adventurer work and the liquid capital that the games bring in. Now, the last major city we need to talk about today is the city of Calabos. This is where the party of players for our first campaign will find themselves spending most of their time in Act 1 in the Tales of Alashar. I'll do a complete separate video with a deep dive into the city. We'll have city maps, everything that you would want, but here's a brief introduction. Calabos was once the biggest trade port in Alashar, receiving dozens of ships every day coming from neighboring island nations and from the other major continent to the west. Imports and exports flowed through here almost exclusively. Nestled into a natural basin, the city was wealthy and bustling, but then the curtain dropped, and the import-export trade of Calabos came to a screeching halt. Not only that, but the ships that were in the port got trapped there, unable to return to their homelands. As the trade money dried up, Nearby towns that served as rest stops for merchants going to and from Calabos shut down entirely, and now the journey to Calabos from other major cities is long and tedious with no good stopping points. The terrain isn't kind, with stony, craggy land to the south and to the east of the city, and treacherous marshes to the north. The once wealthy people who lived in the upper city, opposite of the port where the ships dock, sensed the growing tension, and they hired the city guard to be the hard line that separated the upper city from the lower city. Any wealth that was left over is now hoarded by the barons and the duke in the upper city, while most of the city underneath the guard line is in disrepair and poverty. There are so few natural resources in the area to support these people, and the only real trade route in and out of the city is a tunnel that was carved by dwarves during the times before the curtain, that leads out of the upper city and into the lands just east. With nowhere to go, the ships took down their sails and repurposed the wood and rigging from their masts, and they tied themselves all together with the docks to make Shiptown, a ragtag, swashbuckling sub-city run by the crews and the captains of the ships. They are locked in violent opposition to the Duke and the Barons and the city guard in a sort of localized civil uprising, and that's the hostile environment that our players will be entering on Session 1. Lastly, I will mention that Alashar uses the expanded Forgotten Realms Pantheon of gods as seen here, for all of you who like to have deity influences for your characters. And that is your introduction to the continent of Alashar, the Land of Isolation. We'll update the map with more topographical features as we continue to expand on our world, and more lore videos with custom artwork will follow as well as we deep dive into some of these cities and locations. We'll also have detailed city maps starting with Calabos very soon, and these will all be downloadable for our patrons first, who might want to run campaigns in our world as well. Thanks so much for watching the video and supporting our channel, and we look forward to seeing you in sessions 0 and 1 very, very soon. Be warm and well fed, my friends, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.